Welcome back to Living Your Best Senior Life, the show where we explore the resources, ideas, and inspiration that help older adults and their families thrive. Today we're talking about something that many families face, but often don't know where to begin: navigating the complexities of aging, caregiving, and long-term planning. I am thrilled to welcome Kate Granigan, Chief Engagement Officer of Alder, formerly Life Care Advocates, which is a nationally recognized aging life care expert and leader in the field of care management. Kate and her team are here to help seniors and their families make informative decisions and reduce the stress and create plans that support the independence and quality of life. Kate, it is so wonderful to have you here today. I am really looking forward to this conversation and sharing this with our viewers. So I would love to start with, so many people aren't even familiar with what exactly is aging life care management, and how does your team support the older adults and their families?
Sure, thank you. It's great to be here and share this information. I think it's confusing. There's many terms out there in the aging space,
yes.
Lots of different resources. So part of the problem is just what are people doing and
exactly.
What is the resource I need? So aging life care management is typically a health or human service individual, nurses, social workers, occupational and physical therapists that are working in the aging space. And then beyond that, they have stepped into taking additional training, certifications, and experience to create a well-rounded, holistic approach working with older adults and their families.
Okay. And so I do remember years ago the term, it was more geriatric care manager.
Right.
But we don't really refer to it because it could be anyone.
That's
correct?
Right. We're working with folks that are, first of all, the older I get, the less I like the term geriatric, right? So
I'm with you there.
That was dropped some time ago,
right.
Through our national association. So we really do refer to aging life care management because we're all aging.
Yeah.
And so on that path, our job is to help people navigate that. Okay. And I do think that the idea of, at any age, we do work with younger folks with different challenges or disabilities. We work with whole family systems, and we're working with younger and younger people that really want to be educated consumers and have sort of knowledge and information on the path that they're facing with aging.
I love that, and I definitely want to talk further about that piece because I was just got off the phone with a colleague of mine, and we were talking about proactive and reactive and planning. So we need to touch on that. We need to touch on that. So talk to me. Many families feel overwhelmed when the loved one starts needing more support. What are some signs to our viewers that we can share that it might be time to think about a care manager?
Sure. Well, first of all, we sort of just noted it. It's really never too early. I think there are signs when you begin to see bills unpaid, the house a little less kept than it has been, mom or dad having difficulty getting around the house safely. You might notice some falls or bruises, dings on the car. Those are the kinds of things that often trigger someone thinking something's changing. But I would say that we're really trying to help people think even before that, to your point, being proactive rather than reactive on the path.
Absolutely. It makes such a difference. I know that Alder, and formerly Life Care Advocates, although I feel like everyone now is pretty familiar with Alder, but your organization is known for creating highly individual care plans. Can you walk us through that process and what it looks like from the first phone call to also ongoing support?
Absolutely. Well, people often call our office looking for, they're tipped off to our resource by maybe an elder law attorney or another trusted professional, maybe a doctor, maybe they've visited an assisted living and they're struggling with how to help mom or dad make that transition. And so they're given our name. The first call goes to our team of intake folks, client relations, and they will talk through what's going on for that particular person at that time. And then using that knowledge, talk to them about what the ways in which we would help their family or their loved one navigate.
Okay.
So that's a complimentary call. Sometimes that call, happens in one call, and then they are signed on because they really need our help. Other times it takes a little while, and we'll take the time with families to talk about what it is they need and how we can help.
Okay.
So
and you've
it
got a
starts
big
with the call.
team. I mean, I'm
We
personally
do.
familiar and
Yeah.
blown away. How many?
Right now, I think we're up to about close to 25 care managers.
I was just telling my
And
executive
growing.
director, I said, yeah,
We're
absolutely.
growing and expanding because the need is so great, and
huge.
we are finding that people really do need help. The system is so complicated and so difficult to navigate, and typically you're doing that at a time of stress or change or transition and uncertainty. So having somebody outside of that
is
to help-
huge, who's
to help
not
walk that
partial
with
but
you.
knows the
Yeah.
business and knows the ins and outs
That's
and can
right.
truly direct you.
That's right.
And again, tell me if I'm jumping ahead here,
Yep,
but I
that's
want
okay.
to talk about the first call is complimentary.
Yeah.
Is there a waiting list to start?
Yeah, no, I mean, one of the reasons we're actively adding really talented folks to our team,
Right.
which include, nurses and social workers and physical and occupational therapists. And
Love that.
really talented people who have worked in other parts of aging, and then they find aging life care management to be a really great way to share their skills and knowledge in a way that's really meaningful. And the difference with aging life care management and other resources that are out there is that we are objective professional experts. We are not, we're not paid
Huge,
to give you
huge.
resources and advice. We're paid by the client. We're a consultant.
Exactly.
And the benefit of that is that we are working for the client and only the client.
Yeah.
And so the information we're sharing is truly because it's a good fit. It's a vetted resource. It's a match that, as you said, we're creating a unique recommendations and resources and care plan. And the reason why we can do that in an efficient way is we are walking this walk with hundreds and hundreds of families, at any given time. And so we have the benefit of knowing the resources, having been in and out of communities and hospitals and medical practices and home care and, in and out of the homes. And so, we bring a deep bench of knowledge
Absolutely.
and expertise to the benefit of our clients.
Yeah. And I might add too, you have the loveliest team. I don't know everyone, but I
Well,
know
thank
close
you.
to
We
everyone.
work really hard at
and just a wonderful, wonderful group. I call them angels.
Yeah.
Because I truly believe
Yeah.
that. And I feel like once families
agree.
are connected and truly understand what it's all about,
Yeah.
they're all set.
Yeah.
They're all set.
It really does.
So
It really does flip a switch for families that come to us. Often that first phone call is in complete crisis and, overwhelmed, often tears. And at the end of a call, it's emotional. We are able to say, we can help. And you hear things like, I'm going to be able to sleep tonight for the first time in months. Or, my siblings and I are at odds and we're usually so connected and close, and yet we just can't agree. And it sounds like you can help.
and Kate, that is one of the
Yeah.
biggest things and I see it every day.
So difficult.
It's so difficult. It's so stressful. And some of it is unnecessary if you bring in the right,
That's right.
professionals to help.
That's right.
That's, one of
That's
my...
right.
Okay, so I know caregiving obviously can be incredibly emotional, especially when the family members live far apart or disagree on next steps, and especially if there are so many of them. How do you help the families navigate these conversations and find a common ground and also be respectful of, there's 5 siblings in this family and they all seem to know what's best for mom or dad or the loved one. So it's really a tough position.
Yeah.
But how does it work?
Well, one of our areas of expertise and training is family dynamics. It's understanding the pressures that come with caring for a loved one. It's understanding what changes stirs up in families that are struggling. So I think the common ground comes with the idea and the belief that most of the time, everybody just wants what's best for mom or dad or their loved one. It's just getting there.
And they're voicing it just differently. Everybody is
Yeah, the other interesting, I'm coming from a background of clinical social work and by training, so, and many of our staff are. And one of the ways that we understand this is that, families that come back together, they're not always, they didn't get along in the past and they may not get along in the future, and yet they're being brought together for a purpose of caring for a loved one. And so really being able to acknowledge and name that and saying you don't have to all agree or go out for dinner after this, but you do have to come to some agreement so that we can get mom or dad safe or get them where they need to be or the help they need. And so we can really step outside of the emotion of that, name the reality of it and the challenges, but also then bring them to a place where we as an objective expert can give advice or recognition about what is needed, what's happening. Unlike, very often you've seen this, I'm sure, in your experience, you have mom or dad in an area with a daughter or son locally. And then you have 2 or 3 siblings at a distance and different levels of interest or engagement. The local person is typically pretty overwhelmed and sometimes sort of screaming fire. And their experience sometimes is very real because they're getting 2 a.m. calls or they're answering, phone calls from doctors or neighbors about concern. Others are, mom or dad sounds fine every week when we talk on the phone. And so helping bring some reality to that with an objective clinical assessment can really get everybody to a place of, common ground, and then being able to say, here's what we would recommend, here's how to approach that. Helping families also determine what they can do, not what they can't do.
Right.
It's very clear that you have people that say, well, I can't do this, I can't do that, I'm too far. That's okay. We understand what you can't do. Let's talk about what you can do. What are you willing to do?
Exactly.
And then really trying to get some buy-in from everybody. And then the other piece of this is buy-in from mom or dad. Because if all the siblings want something, but mom and dad are competent adults, they have the right to make choices.
They absolutely do.
And that's a whole nother dynamic we help older adults and their families come to, is that you might not agree with how mom or dad are living right now. It may not feel safe, but they've been making choices and decisions their whole life, and right now they have the right to do that.
And they've they have earned their stripes, and they've earned the right
to make bad decisions. We don't have to agree.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So helping families also acknowledge their level of control, and then helping the older adult, because we're not family, we often have a lot more success in saying, it seems like if we could just add a little bit of assistance in this area, staying at home, which you told me is your goal, is going to be more realistic and longer term and safer. Could you agree to that? Would you be willing to try that? So we have different leverage because we don't have skin in the game, right?
And it's true, and it makes such, oh my God, what a difference it makes. What a difference. A lot of people reach out only when there's a crisis, which we just quickly talked about. An expected hospitalization, a fall, a sudden change in health. What are the benefits of planning ahead instead of waiting for that emergency call, which I know that you help everyone, but
we do.
We all prefer, again, proactive versus reactive and emergency, but
No, and we often say that. We have people who will call and then they don't think it's quite time, and then they call 6 months later in that crisis. And of course, at that moment, they're saying we should have signed on or we should have gotten help. That's okay. We're here now. And we certainly know how to navigate that. However, when we have the opportunity to encourage families and educate people about being an educated consumer far before the need arises, we really have so many more opportunities to have really informative conversations. We can take time. They can go back and think about things. They can visit communities. They can, interview home cares, put names on waiting lists, because they're not being forced to make decisions that really may not actually be what they would have wanted, but by virtue of urgency. The other benefit of proactively planning is we can bring in other advisors and professionals and confirm that the plan they want is viable. So we're going to want to look at what they're looking to do, whether it's relocate to downsize and move into a community where they're trouble-free from home, taking care of the home, and they have socialization available to them and all of those things. that may be their goal. Okay, do you have the costs? Are you able to afford that? What does that look like? Well, you need to sell your home. Working with then their financial person, or making sure they get a financial person to help manage that and look, trajectory ahead. Working on legal documents. Are those things done? Are the things that you want and need in place?
Excuse me.
And do those that support you, family, do they know what your wishes are? Have you talked about that?
Well,
so
that's a big part.
Having all of those pieces done ahead of a crisis allows it to be done in a way that is a lot less stressful and emotional for everybody. So I always term it aging by plan, not default. Really being able to put your wishes out there and take time to put a plan that makes sense in place.
Which is huge. So I want to talk about aging in place. Most seniors, let's face it, they want to stay home. They want to stay in their homes as long as they possibly can. What does it take to make aging in place safe and also realistic? And how does your team help to make this happen?
Sure. You're right. Most people, by sort of just virtue of what they believe, want to age in place.
Exactly.
And so we get that request all the time. I think what, really part of it is looking at the place, right? And getting to know, is this realistic? Is this home built for aging in place? A lot of people love their home, their 2-floor townhome with a great view and, beautiful
stairs.
rugs and stairs and, cute little nooks and crannies.
Sure.
But when you have someone come in and look at that from an aging perspective, you realize doorways are too narrow for assistive devices, or bathrooms wouldn't allow assistance for someone other than one person to be there, which often aging in place may require
Another
assistance
person.
later with activities of daily living like bathing and dressing and such. So we really need to help project forward what that looks like and make sure that, one, the house can be retrofit to do that, and then two, the individual realizing that they want to age in place in this beautiful, aesthetically pleasing home is going to be okay with those adjustments.
Right.
Picking up their favorite oriental rugs, moving furniture, and making sure those things are safe. And so that's the first place we start, because if that doesn't feel like what they expected, then it really doesn't make sense to go further down that path.
No, absolutely.
And then really helping them look at, we also, part of what we do is know the right resources. So there are special contractors that help with aging in place, and they will help make sure they do that in a way that's safe and it will meet the needs of an aging individual.
Absolutely.
So we want to make sure that all of those things are available. You also want to look at things like, how will you get places if you stop driving? What's accessible? People don't think about that. Is it close to public transportation? Are there ride share opportunities,
Right.
Ubers and like? What kinds of social supports will you have if your now great group of neighbors relocate or leave? So, and how would you imagine bringing that in? We know so well that socialization, we learned sadly during COVID, isolation and socialization, the importance of that for people's mental health and
everything.
Cognitive health.
It's literally everything.
Critical.
It's critical.
And that is one reason we often help people leave their homes, because they are going to be incredibly isolated if they hadn't considered that. And so really looking through and walking through all those steps. Nutrition, getting meals prepped, food, socialization, exercise and movement. How will you take care of all those things in this home? And that sometimes helps people have a more realistic idea of what that looks like. Nonetheless, lots of people still want to do that if it's feasible. We also want to make sure we project out costs. Because
I was just going to say that too. Cost is huge.
Cost
it's
a
deal
breaker. There's a tipping point. We often have people, and so when we're working with people, we make sure they, we can age in place for now. Let's talk about that, and then let's talk about what would cause you to need to leave, and then let's keep monitoring that so we can make sure we have realistic expectations and we're prepared to shift or pivot. And that really makes a big difference.
It's incredible.
Because we can help people meet that goal, and then there may be a point at which for whatever reasons, that's no longer ideal or optimistic or what they're looking for. And so then we can help them make that next step. Okay. But cost in home care, can be extraordinarily expensive when someone needs 24-hour care. That can often be more expensive than any other kind of opportunity like assisted living, memory care, and even skilled nursing.
Absolutely.
And so many folks find that they need to make that shift when there's a tipping point of amount of time that they need support in the home if there's not a family member or a loved one to step in.
Okay. We know navigating the healthcare system, and especially in this day and age, it is confusing, it's stressful, even for professionals. How does the care manager advocate for the clients during medical appointments, hospitalizations, or transitions of care?
Yeah, absolutely.
How does that, because to me, this is where there's a huge disconnect for, I'm looking out for the senior, let's just,
right.
And
the system,
and the system, and it's broken.
It is. Our healthcare system is siloed. Professionals and specialists and doctors and PCPs and other providers don't always communicate. There's improvements in electronic medical records and attempts at that, but we still are a far way off from that. And so much of it, in the senior's eyes is so different than the medical care they got from that primary care doctor that knew their kids and their family and had time to
delivered
chat.
Everybody.
So that was so different. And now these new providers, because of the way the system is built, have short time, very quick. They need to go in prepared, with questions and then remember what's said and changing in meds and following instructions. And so a medical appointment can become very overwhelming very quickly.
Sure.
For all of us.
For all of us. All of us.
I mean, I would recommend any one of us, I do, write down your list. Don't leave until it's answered. But, part of what the life care manager does with our clients that choose that part of our work and service is we will attend those medical appointments. We will do a pre-check with the family or with the individual. If somebody is in, managing their own care and they just want a set of eyes and ears and a support in the process, we are making sure the doctor's talking to them, not us, that they're being heard.
Respect.
Total respect and dignity, but we're also there to say, Barbara, is it okay if I mention, remember, you asked me to bring this up if we forgot. Let's check our list. So we're really making sure those things are happening. We're taking notes. We're stepping out and regrouping with Barbara about what's been recommended, what changes. So we're there to be that support and advocate in the room. If somebody also is having a decline, and you talk about when they go to the hospital or they're in the ER, it's not unusual that somebody goes to the ER and they're saying, oh, they're confused, this must be their baseline. And that's usually not true. So we're able to get in touch with the hospital, be a liaison with the medical provider, show up if needed, and be able to share what we know about this person's function, that this is not normal, that they are showing signs of confusion that is not normal. So we can make sure that the tests that are needed are run, that they are getting the attention they're needed, that quite frankly, they're not being dismissed as just an older person that's confused, or this is normal aging. So we're able to advocate there. And then also we know ins and outs of the system, what their rights are, what insurance should cover, what they need to do to get to the next level of care.
That in itself is so incredibly huge and important.
And it's not intuitive. It is not clear what's covered by insurance, what isn't, what should we advocate for. They're saying mom needs to be discharged, but I have to return across the country and there's no one, it's not safe. People don't realize they can wait, they can pause, they can, they have rights.
Right.
And we're there to help inform the family and or be that advocate if the family is not able to be.
God, that's fantastic. That is just so incredibly huge. And I've seen it in action and it makes all the difference in the world. First and foremost for the person, the patient, the resident, the client, what have you. And then of course the peace of mind for the family to know that this is great, and I can go back to being the daughter and just talking whatever, just talking
Having
mother
lunch
daughter,
and-
having lunch,
Yeah.
and not stressing that you didn't convey this to your primary and you didn't tell them that this has been going on. So that's just a huge, huge, huge piece to it. Caregivers, supporting caregivers.
Sure.
It is one of the most stressful.
Yeah.
I have no words to describe but they often feel burnt out, very guilty, and for needing help. What advice can you offer to a caregiver, to a family caregiver that might just, and who's also trying to do, like the example you gave, trying to do it all,
Right.
trying to do it all, trying to get them packed up, trying to get them onto the appointment, and it's just too much.
Yeah.
Is that when we say call you?
Call a life care manager.
Okay, call
it
life care
really
manager.
is. Again, I think a lot of times people are being thrown into the role of caregiver before they even identify that they're a caregiver. It starts slowly and builds, and it's sort of like that, frog in the boiling water that they talk about. It's being turned up slowly.
I know,
and
right?
so you don't realize it, and you're in the midst of this role, which is often another full-time job along with your job and your family. And unfortunately for caregivers, what happens is the first thing that goes is their own self-care.
Yes, it does.
And they're putting their own health on the back burner because mom or dad needs these appointments and they can't take care of both. Or their children, and they're juggling so many things that they're then, feeling burnt out. They feel guilty because they're not doing a good job anywhere. You hear that all the time.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not being a good mom, I'm not being a good spouse, and I'm not being a good daughter. So guilt is real. I would say that guilt is part of it, and you just need to let go of that, because we're never going to feel like we're doing enough no matter what you do.
Oh, yeah.
It's
exactly.
okay.
It is okay.
Not to do
Yeah.
everything, and it's okay to ask for help. And we can help you determine how much you want and can do, what other resources are in your circle or your parents' support circle, and then we can fill in the gaps.
Okay.
So it does not mean you need a life care manager paid privately to do all these things. We can just coach you, help navigate what might be available, who could do what.
Right.
So to create that sort of roadmap, and then it makes it a little more manageable. We can also help families ask other family members for help. And it's also
Huge,
just
yeah.
giving them permission. When someone says, let me help you,
Just say,
okay, thank
yes,
you.
thank you. Yes, exactly.
Great.
And not say,
Mom needs
no,
a
no,
visit. Yeah,
exactly.
no, and that's so important.
It is so important. Kate, you have been absolutely unbelievable. I've just learned so much just from chatting with you today. And thank you for sharing all of your incredible expertise and everything you do for Alder. They are very, very, very lucky to have you. How can people get in touch with you?
Sure.
That's definitely, because I recommend anybody that's watching right now to reach out to Alder, reach out to Kate, and Kate will make sure that you and your family are connected with somebody on the team.
That's right. Yeah, you can call our office at 617-928-0200 or visit us at our website at askalder.com.
Easy.
We'd be happy to talk with you.
Love it.
And no obligation. We're always happy to direct people. If it's not for us, it's some other resource. We'll make sure that we help you on the way.
Wonderful. Thank you. And for all your viewers, thank you so much for watching us today. And until next month, wishing everyone a wonderful, wonderful day.